Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, experienced CBT, ED, and IFS trained therapist, and I am a previously homeschooled conservative Christian turned religious denying, Jesus loving, spiritual being. Here today to share with you three aspects of ancient religion and spirituality that may be unfamiliar to you or uncomfortable to you if you've been limited by modern conservative religion, that embracing will bring so much joy and so much more peace to our lives without any need for hate or the idea of hell. The first one I would like to talk about today is the concept of yin and yang. Now, this comes from Chinese philosophy, and it's the idea that there are two complementary forces in the world that are interconnected. And although they're different, they complement and they're interconnected, and together is how we have a whole. They make a whole. So in other words, without, if we look at the symbol, without the light, we wouldn't have the dark. Without the dark, we wouldn't have the light. Working together is how things function in our physical world and reality. Who knows about the rest? But another thing that we see with yin and yang is that even within the white or the light or the good is a spot of the dark or maybe the bad, and vice versa. Within the darkness or the bad, there is a spot of light, of goodness. So this allows us to accept that life isn't binary. We can't have all good or all bad. Everyone has good in them and bad in them. And we actually need that. It makes it much more tolerable to understand that, hey, this is just how life works. It's a system that kind of works together and ultimately complements each other. And it can make things a lot more tolerable and easier to accept. The second thing I'd like to talk about today in regards to spiritual ideas that can vastly improve our lives is the idea of the experience of living, being alive, being an intentional learning experience, kind of like the idea of going to school. We can think of it as like Earth School. If we are here to learn and we have this spiritual perspective, then when good things happen or bad things happen, we can be more present in enjoying the fruits of what we have learned or in seeking and absorbing what it is maybe that we need to learn. So it allows us to be more mindful and present. It allows us also to better endure the difficult moments because we can have the perspective of this is, what can I learn here? Maybe even the faith that there is some purpose in this challenge and that there's something I can learn and grow from this with. I will say that I don't think that, God or the universe chooses for every terrible thing that happens to happen. I do believe that, we have free will. And so sometimes bad things just happen because, people make mistakes. But even with those tragedies, with this perspective, we don't have to say, oh, God chose for me to go through this, but we can say that there is something good that the universe will bring from this tragedy. There is something I can learn from this. Something good will come out of this. So that's another benefit, I would say, of viewing living through this lens. Another benefit here is that when we are seeking the lesson to be learned, it's easier to learn it. If you're in school but you don't care about learning, chances are you're gonna learn less. If you think you're just there to talk to your friends, for example. Talking to your friends is great, but if I want to learn things, you're going to pay more attention, and then it's going to get easier to learn. And when that happens, you're going to be able to move on to the next lesson. If you never pay attention in Algebra 2, only talk to your friends, for example, it's going to be a lot harder to learn. Chances are you're going to fail the class and have to repeat the class. If this is true, there's a similar concept within our lives where maybe the universe is trying to teach us things to help us grow and evolve and be more full of love and light. But if we aren't getting the message, if we aren't learning the lesson, we have to keep going through that class. We have to keep experiencing that lesson so that we will learn. And so when we pay attention, we can learn more quickly. We don't have to, repeat Algebra 2, for example. I'm not a math person. I would not want that. But, we see this with people in relationships, for example, experiencing the same types of partners. Just as one example, if we can recognize, life is trying to teach me something, I'm noticing a pattern here. What's the lesson for me to learn? If we think that's even a possibility and we consider it and try to learn from that, it's going to be easier to learn because we're paying attention, and then we can move forward. The third topic I would like to address that is of spiritual nature, that's not so commonly accepted with modern or conservative religions and views of spirituality, is the idea of karma. Now, I prefer to see karma not as a reward or a punishment, but more along the lines of how the Matrix describes it in the movies. Basically, it's just cause and effect. So, if we do good, good will come to us. If we do bad, bad will come to us. Now, it's not that immediate, bing, bong, boom. It's something that is complex that we can't completely see and understand and fully, concept all the time, and that's okay. But if we just trust that, karma is real, it gives us an incentive to, of course, do more good than bad. But it also helps us also endure the bad, because we can view this as, this may be just part of the effect of maybe something that I've done in the past, not to punish me, but to balance out energy, or, who knows what's going on here. There's so much that we just don't understand. So it helps us to accept it. It also helps us to let go of any kind of entitlement that we don't deserve this. That can be the case sometimes. No one should just endure abuse by any means. But again, when there are things that are outside of our control, suffering is a part of life. When we can change it, yeah, let's do that. When we can't, we only make it worse by being angry, by being anxious and worrying about the things that we can't control. So karma allows us to just trust and experience. And we see through scientific research of mental and physical health that this also improves literally our physical and mental health, because when we fight experiencing our suffering and accepting it by repressing our emotions or fueling them by getting into, anxiety spirals or depression spirals or anger spirals, that is harmful to the body to be under that level of stress. It's also harmful to the body to suppress and ignore our emotions. We've seen now that this is a huge factor in chronic illnesses, physical illnesses that seem to have nothing to do with our emotions, really do. And then, of course, mental health illnesses. So having the idea of karma and just recognizing that, maybe maybe I'm experiencing this suffering because I need to learn something like we talked about earlier, but because this is the balancing out of energy, of who knows what. When we suffer and it's outside of our control, this idea of karma makes it easier to lean into simply allowing ourselves to experience that pain and distress, even though it is difficult and it is uncomfortable. But it is true that we need to feel to heal when bad things really do happen, or when our body's holding on to negative emotions from bad things that have happened in the past. Sometimes it's even maybe bad things that our ancestors went through. This is proven through scientific research that DNA does hold on to trauma as well. Something your grandparents may have gone through could cause a traumatic response to you if you get triggered by that in the now. But again, we can feel to heal. So allowing ourselves to just experience that discomfort versus trying to ignore it or cover it up, or fueling that fire with our anger, anxiety, or sadness, depression, thinking, oh, woe is me, how could this happen to me? This is going to happen to me forever. We don't know about the future. We can create the future by creating our own reality, by working on what we think about, what we focus on, and how we choose to live our lives. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been of some benefit to you. Please leave your questions, comments, and thoughts, and like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.